When you think about heritage luxury watches, what brands come to mind? Immediately, you're going to say Patek Philippe, AP, Vacheron, the Holy Trinity. You might also say Rolex and a few others. Somehow, one of the most important watch brands never enters the conversation. A lot of people say that Girard-Perregaux are underrated, and they truly are one of those brands that are very overlooked and underrated. Some of the watches that they make are incredibly cool, very important, and historic. Today we're going to take a look at one of their more complicated models. This is the Three Bridges. This is not the tourbillon version. This is the time-only version with a micro-rotor movement, and it is incredible. I have one hands-on, so let's flip the camera and take a look at one of the coolest watches that Girard-Perregaux make, the Three Bridges. Girard-Perregaux makes some very, very cool watches, and this is really one of those watches that you need to see in person to really appreciate. However, I will do my best to get how cool this watch is across to you guys, because look at this. It is just something completely different. A lot of people, when you look at this, you kind of see a face in the dial. It's just very symmetrical. You have a barrel on the right side, and then you have the rotor. It's a hidden micro rotor on this watch. I say it's hidden, but it's really right in front of you. And when you move around the watch, you see that micro rotor moving. So it's actually winding the watch. And then you have these beautiful bridges on here that are DLC coated in black. There's black, gray, silver. You have the balance wheel right here, and it's operating at 3 Hertz, and it's really just beautiful and very interesting and layered right on the front of the watch. Everything is on display. Very high and boxed sapphire crystal. So it's also domed, and I think that's the only way they could ever make this watch because of how many layers there are. But at the same time, it's really not all that thick, including that very boxed sapphire crystal. This is only around 12.5 millimeters thick. It's actually under 12.5 millimeters thick. It's a large watch at 44.9 millimeters, which is pretty large, although it doesn't wear incredibly large on my 7.5 wrist, and I'll show it to you in just a second. And then you have a lug to lug of 51.5. So these are measurements that sound pretty large, especially that 44.9 and that 51.5. But like I said, when you put it on your wrist, it doesn't wear all that big. It's thin because you have a micro rotor movement. When you flip it over, it looks like a traditional hand-wound watch. And it's very nicely finished. This is also dark. It's just one large plate, but everything is finished beautifully. There's a couple of plaques on here that give you a little bit of information, but nothing too crazy, nothing too complicated on the back side of the watch, even though it is really beautifully decorated. It's nothing too crazy. When you flip it over, obviously, on the front side of the watch, you're getting a lot of theater. There's a lot to look at. But there is a really beautiful strap on here. This is an alligator strap, I want to say. You have a titanium buckle that's really nicely made. It's a double push button. And then you have a titanium case, titanium crown, titanium case back, a very large dome sapphire crystal on the front, and then a sapphire crystal on the back. You get 54 hours of power reserve. This is the caliber GP08400-0001, and this is the reference GP200002. So that's some numbers for you. This is called the Three Bridges. There was a Three Bridges tourbillon. They did away with the tourbillon, and this becomes more affordable. It does look slightly different, and I use the word affordable very loosely here because this is pretty expensive, but again, you're getting a lot of watch for your money here. Something very different from other high-end brands. When you're thinking about Patek Philippe, JLC, maybe Vacheron, brands like that, they don't make watches like this. Visually very modern, but sort of a neo-modern take on a complicated watch. You get these beautiful hands on this watch that are also loomed. By the way, you get applied indices. There's a minutes track that is sort of sitting above all of the architecture of the movement, and there are applied indices there, and those are loomed as well. So you do get loom on this watch. There's a large GP at the 12 o'clock that takes the place of the 12 o'clock index, and then you have these very large arrow bridges, and those are in a DLC black. There's a base plate that's in a silver black, and of course you have that exposed balance wheel at the 6 o'clock position. You have those. You have a barrel on the right side, and then you have the automatic rotor on the left side, and it actually says automatic on the rotor, which is kind of funny. I'll do close-ups so you could see everything that I'm talking about. And there is the Neo bridges on my 7.5-inch wrist. Like I was saying, this is a 44.9 millimeter watch, essentially a 45 millimeter watch. You have a 51.5 millimeter lug to lug and a 12.2 millimeter thickness. That is really good. It's actually very thin to the wrist, as you can see, but it does wear on the larger side. I would say this wears like a 44 or a 45 millimeter watch, like its dimensions. However, because of its design, you would assume that it would wear larger. It doesn't. It actually wears pretty nicely. Because you don't really have a bezel here and there's a lot of space for that movement, you would think it would wear a little bit bigger, visually look bigger, but I really think it doesn't. I find this watch to be very comfortable. It's made out of titanium. I think it looks fantastic on my wrist, and I would love to own this watch. And there's a loom shot. The fact that this watch even has loom, I think is impressive. The fact that there's any loom, I think is impressive because this is technically, I would say this is in like hyper watch territory, although it's not hyper watch pricing. This looks like a very high-end watch. When you talk to people who even know about watches, and they see this watch, they're like, oh, that's a $70,000 watch. It's not. It's a $32,700 watch. Yes, that is very, very expensive, but it looks even more expensive than it actually is, especially to people who know about watches. And that's because it is really very complicated looking, even though it's kind of simple. It's just a micro-rotor movement that has some really special architecture. It's not extremely complicated. It's just a really interesting looking watch that comes across more complicated than it is. And I think that's good. And that's the reason why it looks more expensive than it actually is. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. I'll add a link to this watch. Definitely check out their website if you guys are interested in these watches. And that's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.